Happy Halloween, ghosts and ghouls. I hope you're having a particularly spooky day. Now, today is not just Halloween. No. Today is also the release of the brand new BioWare game, Dragon Age: The VEILGUARD, a game I've been particularly interested in. However, I can't afford it. Now, although that sucks for me, it works out for you guys because you get a brand new video. I needed a Dragon Age fix, so instead of doing the sensible thing and replaying one of the old games, I decided to go back and watch the 2-year-old Dragon Age show that I had missed out on that nobody talks about. Because, I'm a functioning member of society that operates on a higher level than most normal people.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But if that sounds interesting to you, kick back, relax, grab your favorite daggers, because today we're going to be getting into... Now, Dragon Age Absolution follows the story of Miriam, a former elven slave turned mercenary who is hired by her ex-girlfriend to break into her former slave master's castle and steal the Circulum. It is an ancient magic device that is capable of resurrecting people from the dead using blood magic. And Hera, as well as her band of misfits, want this artifact to turn into the Inquisition, which I thought was a pretty cool concept for a show. And yes, when I say the Inquisition, I do mean that Inquisition from Dragon Age Inquisition. This game... I was about to say game. This show takes place after the events of Dragon Age Inquisition, which I think is pretty interesting. Now, if this game has significant lore that connects directly to Inquisition and it would make it more fun for someone who's played that game to enjoy... I don't know, because I never beat Dragon Age Inquisition. I've played 3 Dragon Age games throughout my entire life, and I only beat one of them for very personal reasons. Dragon Age 2 was the first Dragon Age game that I ever played. I loved it, went through the game, it was super fun, and it made me want to play more Dragon Age games. So I went out and I bought Dragon Age Origins, but what I didn't know is that Dragon Age Origins is a tactical-based game, and I'm not really the biggest fan of those. So when I got to the first combat encounter, I didn't really like what the combat was like, and I was disappointed, so I stopped playing the game. Then when Inquisition came out, I was very happy, went back to the action-based combat, really enjoyed the game, with the exception of the war table currency system. If you're someone who has never played any of the Dragon Age games and you don't know what I'm talking about right now, I'm sorry for confusing you. But for those Dragon Age fans that happen to be watching this video, you know what I'm talking about in regards to this game. That war table crap was horrible and drove me up the wall to the point that I could not finish the game because it was actively making me have a horrible time. So I moved on from Dragon Age, and I was just hoping that at some point in the future there would be a new Dragon Age game that would come out that I could enjoy the same way I enjoyed Dragon Age 2. But the reason I bring this up is because I played Dragon Age 2 when I was a little child. Same goes for Dragon Age Origins, and I was a teenager when Dragon Age Inquisition came out, and I didn't beat it. And I am currently 26 years old. I was a teenager a very long time ago, so I do not remember any of the deep lore of Dragon Age. So if there are a lot of moving parts here that are references to things that deep Dragon Age fans would recognize and be like, oh, hey, they're using this, that's really cool, I'm not going to know because I just, I haven't played the games in so long and I don't remember the lore like that, so I can't really delve into that aspect of it. I'm just judging this show more as a show rather than a show within the universe of Dragon Age. But something for fans who are going to be playing VEILGUARD, I don't think you need to watch the show. Not watch it at all. I think you should watch the show because it's a good show. But I don't think you need to watch the show to play the VEILGUARD. I believe that this show is kind of its own thing. It's just coincidentally a prequel to the VEILGUARD and a sequel to Inquisition. But it's not necessary for you to consume this media to then play the VEILGUARD to understand what's going on. But focusing up more on the show, Dragon Age Absolution is quite entertaining. It has a few flaws, but all of those flaws mainly boil down to time. This show is ridiculously short. It's 6 20-plus minute episodes, but that's including the intro theme song and the credits. So realistically, this show clocks in at 2+ hours. It's basically just a really long movie. And at that point, it doesn't feel that way because it's written like a TV show. When you have a movie that's 2-3 hours long, that's fine because they're written from the perspective that it is a movie. But Dragon Age Absolution is written like a show that just has the length of a slightly longer movie, which kind of hurts it a lot because a lot of the characters don't get enough detail fleshed out in who they are. We don't get explored into their backstory. Some of the twists that happen in the show feel a little bit off. I know in particular the big twist of the show about one of the characters being a traitor, when that gets properly revealed and explained about how everything's going on, when I got all the information, I thought back to earlier scenes that happened in the show, I was like, does that work? And then I had to rewatch those scenes and I was like, I can see it working, but it didn't have that aha moment like it was supposed to. It kind of just made me question the show's competency on the twist. And like I said, at the end of the day, it ended up working, and I can see how those scenes play into the major story as a whole with the twist. But there would be moments where, like, the character that's the traitor and the villain are talking to each other, and you're just like, okay, did that really sound like a conversation that someone who knows this person and is actively working with them would sound like? It doesn't really sound like that's really the case here. But then on repeated rewatch, it started to click a little bit more, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see how that would work, but it just didn't land on the first time. The characters are interesting. They are varied in both design and personality, but the problem is, since they don't have a lot of depth to them because they don't get time to explore their backstories, they can feel a little shallow and suffer from Marvel-itis, where everyone in the show, they have the sarcastic trait, so everyone makes a joke at one point or another in the show. And although it's not grating to me, I do know there are a lot of people who hate like quippy kind of writing, and this show could be grating for you from time to time. I don't think it's as aggressive as like some Marvel movies that have come out in the past recent years, but I will say this as a warning to anyone that has that problem. So yeah, just keep that in mind when going into Dragon Age Absolution if you're someone that doesn't like that kind of writing. But overall, I do think Dragon Age Absolution is a pretty solid watch, and I would recommend it to you to check out. I think the animation is pretty cool. It was made by this studio, who also worked on projects such as Voltron Legendary Defenders and the Witcher animated movie, both of which are also on Netflix with Dragon Age Absolution, and I think they do a pretty good job of animating things. I like the action that they do. It's not the best animation action that I've seen from any studio, but there are moments that have characters with like very expressive motions and some cool action sequences with the direction and everything. So I think that works very well. Now, I do think this show is quite disappointing because, like I said, I think it needed more time to really flesh out the narrative and the characters to make them more mainstays. The show screams like Vox Machina vibes, which is funny because it came out the same year as season 1 of Vox Machina. But it very much has that vibe with its own distinction because it takes place, obviously, in a completely different universe with different lore and everything. But it doesn't really land the same way as Vox Machina because that show had double the amount of episodes and a lot of time to flesh out character personalities and interpersonal relationships with each other. Also, I think that had a leg up on this in the fact that in Vox Machina, everyone in that show was already a party and they were friends with each other, so they had more of a rapport to kind of bond with each other. While in this show, everyone is kind of just a mercenary that was hired to do this one job, and now that they're all together, they kind of don't trust each other, which could be interesting, but since we don't have the time to flesh out like a long-running narrative about character dissension and not trusting each other and how that's affecting their mental state and how it's affecting the mission, we don't really feel that. There'll be moments where characters is like, I don't know if I can trust that person. And then another character's just like, bro, we don't have time for this. Get over yourself and let's go if we don't want to die.
If you don't trust her, Lachlan, I get it. Trust me instead.
And it's like, oh, well, I kind of wanted them to like care a little bit more, but okay, I guess not. Let's keep moving. It's kind of that kind of problem. And I really believe that if this show just had more time, these issues would be completely gone. They would have been able to add more character depth and add more dissension amongst the group, make them feel like they came together as a team by the end. I think that would have worked significantly better. And it's not to say that I don't like anyone in the show. I do. All of the characters were very likable to me, but I just wish they had more depth to them at the end of the day. And it's a shame saying that because this show doesn't seem like it's going to get another season. it came out 2 years ago, and there hasn't been news saying that it's been officially canceled. It's kind of just been like in limbo, but there also isn't news on it being developed into anything further. And I haven't heard anything about any of this story or characters being adapted into the story of the VEILGUARD. From my understanding of what's going on with the VEILGUARD, it's picking up with the story at the end of the DLC from Dragon Age Inquisition, and then segueing that into its own story. So it kind of just feels like Dragon Age Absolution is just going to be like that neglected stepson that's just in the corner, like, yeah, he's here, and he's a part of the family, but, like, I don't know about that one. So, like, just kind of ignore them over there. That's what it feels like to me. You know, that's just how I get vibes from this show, which is a shame. And I do think it's worth checking out. Like I said, it's a very short watch. It shouldn't take you more than 3 hours. 3 hours would be if you're like pausing the show and stuff like that, and maybe watching through the entire intro sequence and the credits every single time that you start watching the show, which most people do not do. So yeah, Dragon Age Absolution, pretty solid show. Gave me my fix for Dragon Age, and let me know if you've seen the show, if I convinced you on checking it out, and if you got the VEILGUARD and how you feel about that, because like I said, I do want to play that game, but it's probably going to be a while, so, you know, I'm curious to see how that game is. So, without further ado, I'm the Innocent Villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent until proven villainous, and I will catch you all next time. Peace.